Maybe. There we go.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of the Prospect List here on Tales from the Flipside. So, thank you all for being here today. Guys, introduce yourself.
Steve from My Bargain Comics. Hit me up at IG and whatnot, eBay. I've been gone for a while. I was in Alaska hunting Alaskan price variants.
Nice.
Very nice.
I'm Aaron. You can catch me on whatnot also and Instagram with this tag here at Yeezy.
Hey, it's Phil with Vintage Comics and Toys. Got Whatnot Friday night. What's up, Joe?
What's up, Big Dog? This is Red Hood coming at you. You can see me on Instagram and all that. Had a guy hit me up saying that his comic shop is called Red Hood Comics with an S, and he wants me to change my name. I don't think so, bro. I don't think so. It ain't happening.
DC's going to see you both.
He said, yeah. He says, I'm an LLC. And okay. Well,
Joe, you're getting canceled. You are getting canceled, my friend.
No way, man. Ain't happening.
And I want to give a shout out to everyone live in the chat and watching from home. Like Jay-Z said, you could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. So let's get into it. So, number 10 on the list this week, we have Daredevil Volume 1, Number 2. So, this was one of my picks. It is the second appearance of Daredevil with an Electro and Fantastic Four appearance. All signs point towards Charlie Cox, Daredevil returning and making his MCU debut. Number 1 for many people is an unattainable book. And with it catching heat really in the last summer and realizing it's what many would say its true value, number 2 is still not on many people's radars. If you can afford a number 1, go for it. But at anywhere from $150 to $500 for a pretty high grade copy of this book, it's not the worst consolation prize for a Daredevil fan. So be on the lookout. Number 9 is going to be Vigilante Volume 1, issue number 36.
So this got sprung on me at the last minute, so I'm going to do my best. So here is the first meeting of Peacemaker and the Vigilante, and that's going to occur in the Peacemaker HBO show. And it's actually been recast. Originally, they cast some guy named Chris Conrad, but instead, it is going to be played by Bridgerton's Freddie Stroma, whoever that is, because I'm sure we have lots of Bridgerton fans on here. Also, I believe Topher noted that this is the first time we have Peacemaker's, the idea of his haunted helmet presented. And from what I quickly, in all honesty, quickly looked up is that basically he has his father's ghostly voice criticizing his every move during missions. So it's like having a DVD commentary of your life, only it hates everything you're doing, and his father's a fascist psychopath to boot. So anyway, that's Vigilante 36. We'll see what kind of chemistry they have on screen and see if this book pops.
Yeah, that could play pretty well with James Gunn's writing, like that whole idea of the voice inside of your head, like, joke commentary could be very amusing on screen.
By the way, Vigilante is the French pronunciation.
All right. At number 8, we have Master of Kung Fu, Volume 1, issue number 71.
Yeah, this was a blue-green artifact submission, I believe. It's a great cover. For all intents and purposes, Shang-Chi's a hit. So there's only, people that have been specking on Shang-Chi have only been concentrating on about 5 or 6 books. This will be a book that collectors are going to go after. It's great artwork by Mike Zeck, the Mike Zeck. Yeah, and it's been reproduced as wall art and fan art, and homages have been done of this cover. But find this in a high grade. This book is only going to continue to go up.
Very nice. At number 7, we have Doctor Doom, Volume 1, number 6.
Yeah, so this was a pick from Mighty Mel V. It's been presented on its Drunken Chat from the Spec Matrix. And so what Mel wrote was that this is a steady $20 books on all my Whatnot sales. I can agree to that it's selling for about that much on Whatnot. And then recent reports do believe Doctor Doom will be introduced alongside Kang. If it does happen, be prepared for this book to shoot to the moon based on cover plays alone. Add to the fact that it's an iconic man handshake homage from Predator. You have a winner in the making. So, yeah, definitely be on the lookout in this back issues.
I thought it was an homage to Over the Top, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the
over the top. Yo,
the Dylan, you son of a bitch scene. Like that is absolutely that.
I like how all the kids use this handshake nowadays too.
Yeah.
Well, you can't get that close with COVID now, so.
Well, I mean, before that,
it might be one of the last handshakes you see.
That's why they're both wearing masks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're wearing masks. Yeah.
Elbow tap.
At number 6, we have Incredible Hulk, Volume 2, number 100.
Okay, I'm going to tell you guys this. I've been specking on Amadeus Cho for quite a while. This is his second appearance in a comic book. Buy this comic book. This book will only continue to go up. This is the Michael Turner variant, and God rest his soul, was one hell of an artist. These are still very affordable. Even the A cover is very affordable. But if you're looking for some low-hanging fruit, this is it. Amadeus Cho, he's coming. And if you guys don't, we could revisit this a year from now. But I'm telling you, this is a key book. Plain and simple, the end.
Very nice. At number 5, we have Proctor Valley Road, Volume 1, number 1. So this book was one of Josh's picks. It is a 1970s horror-based comic, about the real Proctor Valley Road. It takes place in the Vietnam era, and it has got work from Grant Morrison and many others involved in it. So this was optioned not terribly long ago, but isn't on many people's radar. It wasn't super heavily publicized. It's optioning. It was published by UCP Graphic, which is an extension of UCP of Happy and Umbrella Academy fame, which is a division of Universal Studios, partnered with Boom to create, graphic novels and comics. So it's the first comic book series from UCP, and they are going to be the ones adapting it to television. Generally speaking, I hear that it was a great read. Morrison really did some fantastic work on this, and it includes the first appearance of multiple characters in the series. So if you see one out there in the wild, definitely pick this book up.
Yeah, especially look for it. Paper Girls, I know, is going to air shortly, and this I've read the first 2 issues of this. It has a Paper Girls type vibe, which is good. And the nice thing about this book is you read it and you go, I can't believe it's Grant Morrison, and I can actually understand it. It's not like
it's
a lot
not
of this stuff where it's like very abstract. It's like, wow, I don't have to sit down and know a whole bunch about literature and psychedelics. So it's pretty good.
Man, Boom's been killing it with all these titles.
Yeah, I mean, you could so see this being a hit. Anytime they do a period piece, like from the 70s or early 80s, kind of like Stranger Things, and it always resonates with a lot of people. So,
At number 4, we have Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, Volume 1, number 15.
Okay, so this was a pick from Josh Allen. This pick also showed up on Key Collector and also on my list at CBSI on the back 9 from Topher. I like this book a lot. So obviously, if you see on the cover, this is the first time that Moon Girl and Riri Williams Ironheart meet and team up. I particularly like this book a lot because, hey, maybe we get Moon Girl on Wakanda Academy later on. These meetup books are just going lights out, catching on fire, you know, and get in while you can. Already this book is being speculated by collectors and flippers and at $25-30. And I've been talking to some people and they're like, yeah, this is like probably one of my most favorite Riri covers. So if you see this at the LCS for a fair price, pick it up.
Absolutely.
You know, just a quick point to that, Phil. Like, so there was we had some feedback a couple of shows ago about first meetings and that not really being a key. But, you know, when I was coming up in the hobby, it was all about origin first and then first meetings, you know, and that defined a key book, right? Or first cover. Yeah, we could throw first cover on there. But the first time characters meet, that's a big deal. So I want collectors to understand that don't pass these books up in the wild. Like the first time two characters meet, that's a thing. That makes it a key. Pick it up.
Yeah, it's not something we're pushing. I mean, this is traditional. Right. I've got a Flash number 123 up on my wall. It was a key when I was a kid, and it's still a key today. It's the first meeting of Jay Garrick and Barry Allen, the two Flashes. I mean,
there's also
new.
I mean, 139 as well. Isn't that a first Flash and Reverse Flash?
I have 147 up beside it. I think that might be the first one, but you might be right, Chris. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, it really matters when it's two characters whose history are so intertwined with each other that it makes like it's undeniable that this book matters because it's two characters meeting each other where like throughout the rest of their history they are the antagonists of each other or they have a will they won't they love affair. But we'll get more into this on the roundtable, but definitely like it's something to be on the lookout for because it does matter to people. At number 3, we have Solo, a Star Wars story, number 1.
So this is something that I've been trying to get on the list since our fellow Tales from the Flipside show, Tales from the Dark Side, which is Star Wars focused, mentioned it many moons ago. And I submitted it a number of times, and I don't usually do that with books. But I feel like this is a layup, and I think the only reason why it's never made the prospect list before is because it falls under that Solo, a Star Wars story movie adaptation, which is not universally beloved, right? But good point, Nick, in the chat. Yeah, there's a yellow Walmart one. So what is this? This is the first appearance of Kira. She's on the cover and in the guts. In the movie, she's portrayed by Emilia Clarke, who's a popular actress, right?
Mama.
Yeah. So I think the way I finally got this into the top 10 is by explaining what's going on in War of the Bounty Hunters, and I'm going to try to do that really quick. So the plot of the War of the Bounty Hunters is Boba Fett had Han's body in carbonite, but Kira has people go and steal it. And what happens that theft and what happens after that is basically this big War of the Bounty Hunter crossover that's still ongoing. And right, and Kira is right now the highest ranking member of Crimson Dawn, which is a crime syndicate, who's been shown thus far. And matter of fact, I think that the Crimson Dawn and Kira is resonating so much that just a few weeks ago, Marvel announced that they're going to have Star Wars Crimson Reign, which is a new miniseries focused on Kira and Crimson Dawn. So I think this is a really good bet. And, you know, I think if Emilia Clarke appears in live action again as this character, maybe they recast her. You know, this is a 3-digit book. So, you know, thanks to the Tales of the Dark Side crew. I see JJ in the chat. Yeah, and you know, JJ is one of our Star Wars experts, along with Phil and the folks at Dark Side. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I think this is such a smart play. Emilia Clarke also has that new comic series that she's starring in, MOM, Mothers of Madness or something like that. And there's going to be
don't
a
read that.
show.
That's terrible.
It's terrible. Okay, maybe I did see an Emilia Clarke variant that looked kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So she's an actress, not a writer. Got it.
Yeah,
but
she should stick.
Emilia,
yeah, exactly.
But Emilia Clarke, she showed some excitement that this character is back in Star Wars lore right now for comics, and there's that Lando series that's coming out. So don't be surprised. People are pegging that Solo Junior, that younger Solo actor, is going to come back and reprise his role too. And they have to finish that up. And Darth Maul is going to come into play as well. So we're going to be seeing a lot of Darth Maul. So that him teaming up with Kira, it sounds like just pure bliss for people who are fans of Star Wars. So yeah, don't discount this one. Great pick, Steve.
Thanks.
At number 2, we have Iron Man 593, the trading card variant.
Yeah, so this was a submission that was done by Ben, Mr. Longshort, who couldn't be with us tonight. But, you know, with the Iron Man 593, this is a trading card variant that was drawn by John Tyler Christopher. And with this book, it was a qualifier variant that Steve helped us look up right before this. It was a 200% qualifier. I don't remember what issue before that, but you know, to order 200% of a book to get this book, to make it all you can order, that, you know, to me that sounds like kind of crazy, and it's definitely like probably pretty hard to find at this point, because you know, all Ironheart covers right now are going absolutely bonkers as we keep on getting closer and closer to Armor Wars. So we'll see what this keeps on doing.
Dude, this book is fire, bro.
Yeah,
it's fire, man.
I mean, I definitely remember when all the Marvel Legacy books were coming out. So like with the A covers, they reintroduced the Marvel stamp. So if you're, you know, collecting A covers and stuff like that, be on the lookout for that. Make sure the stamp's still inside. I don't know if CGC or CBCS notates any of that, but you know, down the road, people are definitely going to be making sure it has the stamp. And I'm lucky enough to find the second print of the non-lenticular.
Get those reread books.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And at number 1, we have Black Panther number 6 from the 2009 series. So this was my pick. It is the second appearance of Shuri as the Black Panther. So once again, with that logic of people getting priced out of the number 5, which is now starting to hit, you know, I think I just saw one go for in the 700 range. Wow. This is a much less expensive option. I have been able to find this book in dollar bins. If you want to take the easy way out, you can find them on eBay for anywhere from $10 to $15. Because of, you know, darker colors around the top, you know, the spine doesn't show damage as bad. So again, it may press out if you are a strong presser or have connections to a strong presser, a la Red Hood, to get this to a 9.8. There's also a not super talked about 1 in 10 1940s variant as well. This is just kind of one of those smart plays. I mean, it's a J. Scott Campbell cover. You've got, Reginald Hudlin, writing. I mean, it was a great story. It's a Moreland appearance. So if you're playing that potential Into the Spider-Verse 2 play, you've got that potentially going for you as well. I mean, it's with her coming and the number of books where she is featured prominently as the Black Panther being a little bit on the more limited side, definitely grab all of the opportunities that you can to make a profit while, opportunities are out there.
It's a good pick, Chris. Real good pick. I mean, like that number 5 is already going to the moon,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and go ahead.
What did you say, Phil? What did you say?
Oh, I was saying, for a $10, $15 buy-in, right? Like,
yeah.
You can maybe see that as like a Knicks 4, And,
yeah.
Easy, like $40, $50 flip, maybe a little bit ebb and flow here and there, but yeah, that's like almost triple your money right there.
Yeah, I mean, they're in back issue bins.
Yeah, and you can't go wrong with J. Scott Campbell. I mean, you can't go wrong with that, man. This is a great cover.
Yeah. And so this actually sets us up to a perfect segue for our roundtable discussion. So this week, the topic of discussion is going to be what to do when you've been priced out of the book. And when we say the book, we typically mean the first appearance. This list had a couple of those bubbled their way up, so it was a great opportunity to discuss it with the Black Panther number 6, the Daredevil 2,
the Hulk 100,
the Hulk 100. So again, we're talking about scenarios where these characters' first appearances are maybe already in the 1,000 to 2,000 to, in the case of Daredevil, the 10 to 15 to 20 grand range. And if that second appearance is like a fraction of that, it makes sense to, hedge your bets, go out there and pick those up if people haven't gotten hip to them yet. Because as the market has shown us, second appearances, first solo series, character team ups, again, separating my opinion as a collector aside, costume changes, and then generally cool covers with that character. People are buying them, and it's not us trying to, as it was stated earlier, it's not us just trying to push these. The market is showing that people want these books, and that when people, when FOMO is, running rampant, people are going to go out there and buy these books. So you can either be the old man, I don't get it, or the old woman, I don't get it, get off my lawn, like approach to it, or you can profit off of it. Take your pick. And my logic is always going to be, people are going to buy what they want to buy. You trying to dissuade them or tell them what the book is, that's another argument too of what is the book. It's like, well, just invest in all of them if you can, if you get in early enough, and don't be upset when the market decides to pivot and go, well, this book is actually the book now because the market said so, and you're sitting there holding a bunch of copies. I think McClay mentioned this with a character, I don't remember what it was, on a previous either Modern Comic Mayhem or either a episode of Tales from the Flipside, which again, if you're not watching, definitely do so. That he invested, like he went all in on the wrong book, and it ended up not paying off for him.
I think that was on Flipside, and it was the Batman Harley Quinn.
Absolutely, yes.
And he skipped out on Batman Adventures 12 because he was reading a lot of Wizards back then. And if I have a question about Wizard, I'm going to ask McClay. But in those articles that he was reading, was saying to pick up the Batman Harley Quinn book, and then also Batman Adventures One Love. Is that what it was?
Mad Love.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
So I mean,
I would still pick those books up.
Like the
Mad Love and Like, I mean, the third appearance of Green Goblin, that's a thing, dude.
Yeah.
Like this is not, you know, created Spec out of, it's a thing. The second time the character comes around, that's a thing. The third time, if it's a key character. Now, if it's some random like throwaway character that it really doesn't matter, like I can't even think of anybody like Whiplash or something like that.
Speedball.
Well,
Speedball.
I could probably think of the exception for the rule on that. Would you not think? I mean, I know her first appearance is kind of like obscure and stuff like that, but magic. So like she has an appearance in Giant Size X-Men, but she's not named. And then like, do you count her as a teenager or do you count her as an adult? And then you can just keep on going down that rabbit hole. And I don't think the market has settled on. I mean, because I feel like ever since the New Mutants movie, she's grown in popularity.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing too. Like, just because, and this goes back to like, I'm going to keep beating this horse until people ultimately start to really pay attention to it. You've got to stop thinking like comic book fans. Like, I get it. It's what brings us to this hobby. It's what motivates a lot of our decisions. But if you are trying to turn a profit, you have to stop thinking like a comic book fan and being like, I don't understand. Like case in point, people whining and crying about One More Day. Yes, we all know that story sucks. It was terrible. But the average person didn't read One More Day. They are just like, ooh, more Spider-Man. Oh, it's a story arc that explains how Spider-Man goes back to being like, anonymous again. That sounds like that could be cool. And you sitting over there in the corner grumbling, like holding up the wall, being like, that story sucks. And while the book is like turning a profit for people, yeah, like you got to turn that off. Like, I think all of us who were fans of comics, who were, really paying attention when the first X-Men movie dropped, because that was really when we thought we were going to get some comic book accurate stuff. And all of a sudden you're seeing where Rogue's, a teenager, and the imagery looks like, he's got an adamantium skeleton and claws that were like, the claws are a part of the skeleton and not part of his. And then they retconned that, and we're all just sitting there just like, well, that's not how that works in the comics. And what's the name? And Cyclops and Havoc are roughly the same age. Like, okay, you can be that guy if you want to. Like, you can be the comic book guy, telling people how these movies are comic book inaccurate or the story they're basing it on sucks. And then you're missing out. You're missing out on opportunity to turn a profit.
Yeah, I mean, how boring would it be if everything was comic accurate? Because then you'd know what is going to happen, and you just see. I mean, there'd be no surprise. There'd be no twist. I mean, I don't know. That's not fun. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, even when they take books to movies, it's. They take liberties, right? I mean, sometimes they do a straight interpretation, but I don't know. I like to see something that I don't already know. No,
absolutely. And I mean, like, it's like, and if it's in the right hands and done properly, it can honestly, in some cases, be better than the source material. Like, Marvel is showing us that putting these characters in the hands of competent writers who have somewhat of an affinity for comic books are able to take this material and be like, oh, well, this is how I would have loved to have told this story if I was writing comics in the 90s. And they can fix a lot of the faux pas and mistakes potentially that happen in some of these story arcs. Case in point, if we ever see a Onslaught, in live action, like, we can all admit that Onslaught was a terrible story. That was a cash grab in the dying days of Marvel, when they're in bankruptcy and they're firing everybody left and right. So a lot of stuff that happened in there was just like, let's just find a way to shoehorn in characters in these dying moments because people's books are about to get canceled. But I definitely believe that in the hands of a Kevin Feige with the right, writers and directors and actors in place, Onslaught can be done amazingly well. So do you want to be the guy who's sitting there complaining, or the person sitting there complaining about, man, this story sucked. I hated it. I don't see how this makes any sense. I don't understand why they're putting this on the screen. Or you can be the person who's turning a profit, because you got you some Onslaught books. So make a decision that makes sense for you.
Yeah, and I think you want to see it in the hand. Creative people want to create, so if they just take what's been written, that's not the best use of their talents, right? And I think that the same creativity applies to investing in comics, right? So, yeah, if you're priced out of a first appearance, then you have to get creative and think about where the puck is going to be next. Is it going to be a second appearance? Is it going to be a variant? Is it going to be a name change, a costume change? Some of the other things that you've mentioned, Chris. It's about skating where the puck's going to be, and you need to be creative in that. And I think there is a lot of criticism that's brought on by people that maybe aren't as creative, that just want to be see things in a black and white type world, right? And one of the things I've been advocating in comics is I hate to see people get wrapped around the axle about what's a cameo and what's a first appearance and what's a first full appearance. To be honest, I have no idea. I have no interest in those debates. And so I advocate for a spectrum, of, and yeah, of course, when I'm selling on whatnot or something, okay, I'll label it for something. But, but for just general purposes, I think calling things an early appearance is one of the things I've been pushing. I don't think it'll ever catch on because most people aren't they want to talk about which one's the cameo, which one's the first full, which one's the, but I don't know. I'm just not, that's not my personality. No,
I think you cleaned it up a lot just by saying early appearance, because this way you don't get into the bullshit,
to the hours and hours of
the
hours of debate of like the same old conversations that we've had for years. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's only so many points you can make. Yeah, there's only so many points you can make on it. But I like what you said about the variance idea. And I can think of a perfect example of that is the Department of Truth, like issue 1 when that came out. A cover in the secret variant sold out like crazy, like really fast. And which cover was left behind was the B cover, the Jenny Frison all red cover, like Lady in Red. And then as we saw other books increase in price, like all the incentives and all that, blah blah blah, like the B cover just stayed like cover price forever until like I think like maybe until like the option news. Is that one?
Which is really strange because you think Frison and
it's like a gorgeous cover.
Yeah, and credit to Mel V on he was the first one to grab onto issue 2 and go, hey, Starface Man, and it was like, oh yeah, Starface Man, right? So
the baby,
I mean, that's about okay, you're priced out of number 1. What's the next most important book, or who's going to be the next biggest character?
Yeah, and also too, like, stop hating on these team up books. Like as we were having in conversation prior to this show in the green room, like character team ups matter. Like they are important. They are historically important. It's not us trying to push an agenda. It's like the first, like whenever the X-Men show up on screen and we get that first kiss between, if it does happen, between Jean and Logan, like that mattered. Like, X-Men 37, I think it was in the comics, and I think it was Uncanny, or X-Factor 37 and Uncanny 242, where they like had this kind of crossover storyline love affair thing happening. It matters. Like first meeting between, people want to shoot down like, oh, well, the value of first Luke Cage and Iron Fist didn't spike with the series. I was like, well, that's because one of those series sucked. So if it had been a better series and they had led to more interaction between those two characters, then that absolutely could have like had some like long-term spec value. Again, I feel like the team up books aren't something that people are just pushing. I think it really does matter, especially when two characters are so, tied to each other from a so typically a character's first appearance or first time meeting a character is pretty early on in the run. It's like with Spider-Man, like first, interaction with Doc Ock, or first appearance or first interactions with the Goblin or whatever. But other times they're maybe later on in those characters' lives, and those books can still matter. So
yeah, so I went and grabbed the Overstreet Price Guide number 5 from 1975, and I bet you if you give me a minute or two, I bet I can find in here notes that say, this book, first meeting of so give me a couple minutes, continue talking, and I'll bring up examples. This is the meetups are not a new thing; they're an old thing. So
set it on fire, man. Set it on fire.
I'm going heads down for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Chris knows that Fantastic Four number 6 has been speculated probably for a good couple years as the first villain team up, right, between Doctor Doom and Submariner. Mm-hmm. So I mean, this is not new stuff. This is not revolutionary. It's been around, and even in that Overstreet guide you're holding, Steve, I think they even have up to like the 6th appearance of Thor in that book, right? Yeah. And it's just this country itself. These moments and these time periods and these story arcs are all nostalgic to us, So, look at Spawn. Like, people are like, yeah, I don't believe this hype in Spawn, like 2 years ago, like these mid 200 runs with these variants. But or actually not even the sketch variants, but just even the regular cover. They're just super, super short, limited print run. So it's just this trend is just catching on and catching on. We're seeing different customers with, people collect cards, they flip inserts. We have sneakerheads. We have Funko Pop people that collect different variants of Funko Pops. Like this, the lines are being crossed here, and you have to adapt. I'm a dealer. I sell comics and toys, and vintage comics and vintage toys, and I have to keep up with 10, 12 different lines in my company, and I'm telling you, like, these variations and stuff matter in any collectible. So this is a great topic. Great. Yeah. I'm glad to be here.
I do want to address this though. Let's celebrate the fun side of collecting beyond making a buck or two. A happy collector is a lifetime collector. I mean, I'm not going to say that, all of us on the panel are collectors, but I mean, I can say that, we each have our own personal collections that, we will not sell. And the point of us to flip other books is to buy bigger things that we want. So we're not always dipping into our personal funds to fund our collection. I mean, isn't that like part of the collecting?
No, absolutely. And also the segue, before I kick it over to Tony, to kind of segue off of that as well. This show is the speculation show. Like, if no other show on this channel is going to go hard and heavy on speculation and how to turn a profit, it is this show, because it is the prospect. It is the book that you should invest in for no other reason than potentially turning a profit. So, not to alienate anyone, but like, that is what we are getting back to, basics. We are getting back to business of how can we have our viewers profit off of the information we're giving them.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think how books, one book can lead to another book, could lead to another book. You got to decide, are you willing to play the long game? People want instant gratification, like pulling a golden ticket out of a Wonka bar. Like, it's not always going to happen. You're not always going to find that, like Mercenot pulling Young Avengers #1 out of a bin, so you got to be methodical. You got to look for keys, first meetups, second appearances, because there's still meat on the bone, right? And we're trying to help collectors at least get something out of the time they're spending when they dig. because that's your time. Your time is valuable. So if you're on the hunt and you're coming away with nothing, we're trying to help you come away with at least something that you could maybe turn around and flip and maybe add some money to so that you could buy something else, that you really do want.
And then how else do we find out about this information? Besides, we have to read books too ourselves to get this information out to everyone, because
right, or read Wikipedia.
Because no one can edit that.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody can, and nobody's going to steal. Wikipedia is not going to steal our ideas, that's for sure.
Right. So I did find, like Spider-Man, right? Overstreet 1975. I mean, they note number 3 is a Human Torch cameo. Number 5, Dr. Doom appearance. Yeah, they don't say like first meeting, but they
mark it down.
They marked it down. I mean, it's always been interesting to collectors, when characters appear in other books. I don't think they have every Dr. Doom appearance in Amazing Spider-Man noted. It's probably just the first one, right? So yeah.
I mean, one that's probably in that section, ASM Annual number 2, first meeting between Strange and Spider-Man. That matters for right now, if nothing else. Like, and the fact that he may be kind of taking over as Peter's mentor going forward. You never know what the outcome of No Way Home will be, and that's going to be important. I mean, that's where the first time of those two characters interacting with each other in comic book form.
I just thought of something. So, like, shoe collectors, right? Like MJ's, like the Jordan 4s or the Jordan 5s or the 6, the 8s. Those aren't his first shoes, right? So, like if it's a popular character, second, third appearances are a thing, man. So Michael Jordan's third-year card's worth money. Fourth-year card's worth money. LeBron's third-year, fourth-year card's worth money.
And just like just in that market, I would imagine that there's people who collect them for the joy of collecting, but there's also a lot of people for sure that are doing it for investment.
Oh yeah, I'm a former sneakerhead, and I had a very immense collection of shoes that I wanted just because I wanted them. And then there were things that I was like, oh, I'll definitely be able to flip this, but I'm going to sell it, and then I'm going to be able to buy the shoe that I really want. So, it is all the same logic.
Yeah, and it could be like used as also like, a status symbol almost, like and then I wanted to bring back up a topic that we were discussing earlier of doing, if they did do content creation of like scene for scene and stuff like that. The first thing that popped to my head was like DC animation, that they're pretty accurate to like, so if I do want to watch something that's comic accurate, like that's where I'm going to go to. But can we also agree that like if What If was like scene for scene, it wouldn't be as successful as it is now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me as a because the first X-Men movie came out when I was in early high school. I misspoke, I think, on a previous episode where I said I was in middle school, but no, I was in early high school when the first X-Men movie came out and when Spider-Man came out. And at first, as a child, keep in mind, like I was a child, I was 14, 15 years old, and I was butthurt about it not being comic book accurate, and I'm sitting there pointing it out and stuff. And then I had to like separate myself, like grow up a little bit and separate myself and be like, you know what? First off, it wouldn't have been nearly as interesting if they had done a shot-for-shot version of the comic book in this movie. Also, like over time, Marvel eventually established that of their multiverse, the movie multiverse or the different movie multiverses are different universes within the greater Marvel universe. So again, that also gives you a more sound explanation. I mean, they even joke about it in the original Spider-Verse comic book. Like you have one of those little side comics where two of the multiverse Peters are sitting there chatting with each other behind a rock as like all out wars going on. And he's like, did I just see the guy from Seabiscuit? And he's like, yeah. And wasn't that the dude from The Social Network? So like actually talking about like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as if they were other Spider-Men from alternate universes within, you know, the greater Marvel universe. So again, like once you're able to separate yourself to a certain degree as a comic book fan and be like, this is an adaptation. It's been happening to people who are literature fans for all of their lives. They are not like rarely ever is the book going to be the exact same thing as what they represent on screen. You're just going to have to accept that they're going to take some creative licensing, hoping that it's for the best, and enjoy the medium for what it is.
You know, I real quick. I'm sorry, Steve. Real quick, like I was a huge Deadpool fan. Like, and Aaron, you know, like Aaron follows Deadpool also. Let me tell you, I was watching X-Men Origins like this, like, oh my god, dude,
Yeah,
really, bro. Like,
yeah, I was so disappointed. Yeah,
dude, that was like a terrorist attack, bro. Like they fucked up Deadpool, bro. I mean, pissed.
Yeah, I was
pissed.
I was pissed too. And then, but now looking back at it, like years later, I can laugh about it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Funko like went as far as like making a convention exclusive for that Deadpool, where his mouth is sealed and all that through Walgreens, I think, which I thought was hilarious, and so I bought one because it was funny to me at that point.
So let me add to that. So everybody's pumping in money to Riri, right? Mm-hmm. If they go and do some shit like that to Riri and just obliterate the character, like there's gonna be some shit to go down, man. They're gonna be going after the director, the writer, like you can't do that shit anymore, man. Like you better get it right, or at least close to right. It doesn't have to be verbatim from the story, but you better not assassinate that character. You know what I mean?
Right. You got to pull from the. You got to pull from the source material.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah. Like you can't. Like it's serious now, man. There's a lot of emotion tied to these characters, especially the new younger, the new younger characters, the Miles. Like they better get that right. They've had plenty of time.
So the segue,
right.
So the segue on that point, with the talk of them potentially changing up Kamala's origin and powers, how is that going to play? Like, do you think people are going to respond well to her suddenly not being an Inhuman and not having her stretchy powers? Because let's be real about it. Like, I think there's maybe 2 covers of her not with her big ass hand. So how is that going to play?
I just don't know. We'll see, dude. But like that was probably the charm of Kamala Khan. Just seeing the big, like the Reed Richards stretchy big hand. I you know, that was the charm around the character. Because why else would you? I hate that you brought that up, dude. I'm still
all right. So let me go back to something. There's an interesting case. So I've done some really intense research on Batman Beyond #1 and the different printings. And if you really want to be bored, I have a YouTube channel that I hardly use, but I did a Batman, like a 30-minute Batman Beyond #1 analysis, which is an interesting case of they took the premiere episode and put it into comics. I believe the first 6 issues of Batman Beyond are episodes. And as part of my research, I went back into like the Usenet forums from like 1999 and 2000. And you should see the people that got upset because the comics cut out parts of the animated episodes. So it works both ways.
That's a great point.
An interesting case. You don't see that too often, but I just wanted to bring that up.
And JJ Maxwell in the comments just asked, as it was said earlier, will casual people care about the big arm thing? Honestly, probably not. Like, again, I keep trying to voice this as, step out of my like comic book fan knowing too much for my own good about the source material and look at it and use, like, case in point, like my significant other, I use her as a litmus test of like, will this hit or land with the average person? Yeah, she's a little bit nerdy and geeky, but generally speaking, like, she wasn't a hardcore comic book reader. The comic books that she did read were typically like 90s indie stuff. So she's, or Vertigo. So she's definitely like, not a hardcore comic book fan. So she's not going to get wrapped around the axle about changes to somebody's backstory and origin. Now, if I tell her the differences, she'll be like, oh, that's cool. I may want to read more about that character or what they were. But she's not going to be, picketing outside of the AMC because Kamala's arms don't stretch and she doesn't have a big hand. And I don't think the average person is going to be that way either. I mean, this is the comic books or the TV and film medium is a great gateway drug for somebody wanting to know the true story behind a character. Like if you don't take a gatekeeper approach and you don't like poo-poo all over and you just say, oh, if you think that's cool, you should really read their original stories or where this originally was based off of. And, like I had a friend who was like, well, all I know about the X-Men is the X-Men cartoon and what happened in the movies. So I was like, well, if you really want a great story, that's been kind of sort of portrayed in the TV show, in the cartoon and in the movies, go read like, God Love, Man Kills and like, some of these other classic, Claremont stories of the X-Men and things like that were, slimmed down and kiddified for the animated series. And he did, and he was like, man, this is some really great stuff. I was like, yeah, like Claremont revolutionized like what was happening in comics at the time, and basically single-handedly saved the X-Men. So again, there can be differences. It can, service purpose for the general audience. People get their entertainment out of it. And just you as a comic fan need to realize that, you know what? This may not necessarily be 100% for you. Just because that exists, nobody destroyed your comics or those old stories that you used to love and read.
One thing that sticks in my mind, like Disney Plus raised my subscription $1, right? And they raised everybody $1 across the board. Like, if the special effects are going to cost too much money for her to have a big hand, the long arms, and all that, just come out and say it. Don't retcon it because you just are saying we want to go in a different direction. Just say you can't afford it. It's too expensive.
Well, we don't like Inhumans.
Well, I also heard that I think someone on one of our panels brought this up that like maybe they're saving the stretchy arm for Reed Richards. I think it was Longshort, if I remember correctly. I mean, because I edit so many videos, like I hear things over and over again. So I think I'm pretty sure it was him that was saying that like it's possible that it's going to be used for that, and then maybe down the road once they like kind of like, I mean, I guess the technology is here now already, so I don't see.
Oh yeah.
Why can't they both have stretchy arms, man? Let's everybody have stretchy arms.
Maybe DC fandom will announce that Plastic Man or Plastic Woman movie and beat them both.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. If they were smart, like they would be jumping at that because they, man, DC, dude. If they got like Feige's evil twin brother, bro, they could make some money, dude.
Right. And you guys are going to make me bring up my Wonder Twin spec, which is another great example of, you wouldn't want to see Wonder Twins literally brought to the screen. You'd want to see them done tongue in cheek, like Mark Russell, who's one of the best satire writers in the industry that no one's ever heard of. But he wrote the Wonder Twins, their first solo series, I guess twin series, a couple years ago, and it was hilarious. And he reimagined them as like high schoolers, and it was really good. So yeah, I mean these things need updating. I mean I've been reading a lot of 70s and 80s Marvel recently, and it honestly a lot of it doesn't read that well. I mean I've read the whole run of Spider-Woman. I mean it's dull. It really just, it doesn't. A lot of this doesn't age well. So
no, it really doesn't. Like, I mean, we talk about like, the Silver Age, and we want to remember them in such high regards in like the 70s and the 80s, for what they meant for comics and things like that. But like, let's not get it twisted. Like, a lot of that stuff is not good reading at all. Like, I mean, no. I'm not a Claremont homer at all, but like until he kind of showed up and started, changing how we viewed comics and what happened in the 80s with like Frank Miller and those guys and Alan Moore, and comics were campy. There was a reason why Batman in the 60s was doing the bat dance and multicolor. Like, he was a joke. Like, they tried to go so far left from that with Batman 89 because they're like, no, Batman's a joke now. People, the first Batman movie was almost a comedy. Like, there was talk of potentially having, who was it? Eddie Murphy. Potentially, they were talking about trying to get him to play Bruce Wayne because they were the studio was so indoctrinated with the 60s Batman that they were like, there's no way that this can be done any other way than being basically a parody of itself and a joke. And so, yeah, I mean, and that was what the comic books reflected too during that time period. They wanted to go with this, the angle that was successful. So they started leaning the comic books in the direction of what was happening in the television show because it was successful. And so you got a lot of really campy, kind of crappy stories happening in the late 60s, early 70s coming out of Batman until the late 70s and the 80s when it was oh, let's get back to our more gritty storytelling when it comes to this character. And that's why you started getting things like Legends of the Dark Knight and stuff like that. A lot of those one-off stories post Batman 89 and during the same time as Batman the Animated Series, where almost none of those stories feature any of Batman's Rogues Gallery at all. All that stuff is cult and voodoo and the first appearance of Bane's uber power juice, which Venom, the first appearance of that and things like that. It was these one-off, very dark, very gritty, very not kid friendly type of materials coming out because that's just kind of where the zeitgeist was at that time.
That's why, whenever you have a hot comic book writer, their books just explode. Because, I mean, let's just keep it real. There's not a lot of great writing. I mean, you look at the books that are on fire right now, either it's a first appearance or there's a guy that, a tiny onion, quality writing. Donny Cates, if he could stick a landing, Jesus Christ, he would own Marvel, man. I was telling Aaron, so my uncle owned a comic shop and I worked there for 15, 16 years. So I've been in comics since I was 7 years old. I cannot tell you the energy when Frank Miller brought The Dark Knight to the prestige format or graphic novel. And Alan Moore was doing Watchmen. I mean, the electricity, that was the last time I felt that. Then Donny Cates comes and he does the absolute carnage with the Venom and just boom, null. And man, that's exactly how it felt back in the 80s, man. Just that type of energy. We need more great writing. We need some, stuff in the guts of the book. And, that means something that can carry on for the next 10, 20 years. It's great, having these great artists, doing these one-off fantastic variants and stuff like that. But we need great writing. We need, I remember Todd McFarlane said that, the one medium, comic books are the only medium where a kid sees a word in a comic book and can't understand it, doesn't know what it means. He's going to go grab a dictionary to kind of put it into the proper context, and I've always remembered that. So we just need more great writing in comic books.
Yeah. As a retailer, I get previews of a lot of comics and and getting those previews and reading them. I don't have to read them, but as as someone who's, trying to guess what's going to be popular and what's good, it is disappointing. It does feel like work reading some of these previews because there is just so much out there. But I'm so happy to, when I come across something like the preview of Dark Ages, and then I get to see, the rest of you, read it. I guess it came out, a couple weeks ago, and you know, the reaction is great. And it's, you know, and Tom Taylor is so great at telling those type of stories, and he's been great at doing them at DC, and now he's, you know, doing that type of story for Marvel. It's great when those great writers do what they're great at. If I didn't use that adjective enough.
You go look at Jason Aaron's run for Thor, God of Thunder, man.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I mean, like, if you guys haven't had a chance to read a Thor run, you got to pick up God of Thunder, you know, because Gore the God Butcher, Null. I mean, just look what that spawned. I mean, his writing was so good. Donny Cates had to ask him, "Hey, can I borrow one of your characters?" I mean, like,
I mean, so actually, kind of, you know, segue on that point, or like, you know, digging more deeply into that, is that, you know, earlier conversation about, like, you know, the 60s and 70s stuff not being the greatest or whatever, and being able to terraform whether it be a bad story into a better story in the case of, you know, One More Day, or taking a solid story or a great story and turning it potentially into an amazing story with the right director, and what's probably going to happen with the Gore the God Butcher arc and, you know, Thor God of Thunder. I mean, Marvel's focusing a lot of their attention on stuff that came out in the last 20 years, and not so much on things any older than that. Like, think about it, like the Guardians team is from the last 20 years. Right. The Civil War, last 20 years. Bucky coming back as the Winter Soldier, last 20 years. Kamala, last 20. I mean, basically, this whole new phase is just basically, you know, all new, you know, all different Marvel for all intents and purposes.
Absolutely. But, you know, and so we had the question last night, which was it going to be Dick Ryder or Sam Alexander? What do you think it's going to be? I mean, they've been pulling material from the last 20 years, right?
So like, it'll probably be Sam.
Yeah, if you think Sam Alexander ain't coming, he's coming, bro.
I mean, it may be Richard might be there, but they may play kind of like this, you know, father figure, you know, because I mean, not like we don't have enough of those in the MCU at this point, but they may play like this whole, like, you know, oh, let me go talk to, you know, let me talk to old Ben Kenobi type scenario. And it's like, well, actually, we are, you know, from this race of, you know, Space Centurion cops, and you just got bestowed upon you the power of all of our, like, greatest, like, fighters, and you are now become, you know, Nova Prime. And so, yeah, they could play it that way. Who knows? But I still think, like, if it's not Richard, that he will still make an appearance and be a part of the story, and maybe even have a couple fleeting moments of power left in him where he gets snuffed out by whoever the big bad is of that movie, for Sam to finally no longer because, I mean, all these origin stories are basically like the hero's journey. So he's going to, like, deny the call and be like, I don't want it. You know, this isn't what I wanted. Like, I just want to be a regular human kid. And, you know, he has to step up after, you know, Richard gets snuffed out, and it's like, okay, well, now I have full Nova Prime powers, and I'm going to, like, you know, defeat whatever this nameless, faceless enemy is for one movie. So I can see the story playing out like that.
One thing I do want to say is, so, you know, for a book to be iconic, I think it needs either, you know, good writing or great art. But for a book to be epic, it needs both. Yes. And to carry on through the ages. So I'm going to introduce a new word to our vocabulary of epic.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be a topic for another show, like greatest artist writer team ups. Like, you know, you know, one book that sticks out is like the Old Man Logan run. When I first read that, I was like, man, this shit reads like a movie. It's like a fast read. And I was like, wow, man, if they could ever put that on the big screen, and lo and behold, look what happens, right? If you have a great writer, it's easy for a screenwriter to adapt it, you know, to go to because they could pretty much do anything with special effects. I mean,
so yeah. When I think about that, I mean, I think about Wolfman and Perez, obviously. from the DC side. Of course, they work together at Marvel as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But all right.
So,
Yeah,
well,
I guess that's it, man. I'm
yeah.
tired.
So, yeah, I think we're hitting that time of night. But I will say one thing though, with us talking about the second appearances for a solo series, yada yada yada. Once again, if you guys are not watching Comic Book Women in their market report, you are missing out on probably many of the books that you will probably see on, potential future lists. Like, they did a great rundown on Shuri and like all of her tertiary appearances. They did a comparative analysis based off of what's coming out of Cover Price. Highly, highly, highly recommend watching that show. Great material coming out of there. Great content. If you're paying attention to the books they're referencing, then you're probably already ahead of the game. You've got them in your box, and you're going to be ready to go when a character takes off. So cannot stress that enough. Watch our sister show, Comic Book Women. Definitely be watching the Modern Comic Mayhem. Show all the shows on this channel some love, because they are doing amazing work in their respective fields.
So make sure to like and subscribe to our channel and hit that bell for all the notifications.
Yeah, hit it.
All right. Have a good night.